Navigating the Change, Common Myths and Overlooked Facts that Radically Impact the Menopause Experience. Hi, I'm Dr. Mesh Seibel, one of America's leading experts on women's health and menopause. In this webinar, I'm going to share the most powerful information available today on hormone therapy. And at the end of the webinar, I'm going to show you the tools to create your own personal menopause breakthrough action plan. Now, we have a lot to go over, and I'm going to begin by asking you a few questions. Would you like to have better control of your mood, your sex life, or your weight? Understand hormone therapy and not be afraid of it. Would it shock you to know you can decrease your risk of Alzheimer's or dementia by 30 to 70%, lower your risk of heart disease and breast cancer by up to 23%, and turn back the clock and feel younger with clearer thinking? Confident you can take back control of your life? While at the same time learning about the importance of nurturing yourself and discovering simple ways to do that? I'm looking forward to sharing the framework to help you create your own personal menopause breakthrough so you can take back control and make sense of the changes. Make sure you stick around till the end of this webinar because I'm going to show you a tool you can use to make your menopause breakthrough whether you're in perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause. That's our agenda. Now, I'd like to tell you a little story about how I got started wanting to help women get the information they need to navigate the change for a healthy and vibrant life. I was just finishing the third of my 4 years of residency training at Emory University in Atlanta, and I got up and got to get ready to go to work. And I started shaving, and I noticed a large bulge in the side of my neck that was the size of my fist. Now that, being a doctor, is when I started to worry. And the next day, I made an appointment with the head of the ear, nose, and throat department, and in a few days, I went in to see him. After he examined me, I asked, "What do you think it is?" "I don't know for sure. We need to take a biopsy." "A biopsy? Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. Do you think it's cancer?" "I don't know for sure. We need to take a biopsy." A few days later, I was scheduled for a biopsy. You know, in those days, you used to get admitted to the hospital the night before, and as a routine, the surgery resident came into my room to get a history and a physical exam. And he was exactly my age and training level. And after a brief exam, he stood up and he looked me right in the eye. "I wish there was something good this could be, but there just isn't. I just hope we don't have to take out your tongue and the angle of your jaw and go the whole 9 yards. Do you know what you've just done?" And he just shook his head. "You've just spoken to me for the last time. Get out of my room." The next morning, I went in for my biopsy, and believe me, I was really scared. I remember waking up, and you know the feeling, blurry, slurry, and foggy. I could barely make out the face of the surgeon, but he was smiling at me. "It's benign, a rare tumor of the nerve of your neck, the 64th case in the world." But that was really only half of the story. My tumor was wrapped around one of the large arteries to my brain, and they weren't sure which nerve the tumor came from. Then I was scheduled for the bigger operation to remove the tumor, and my surgeon came into the room with a textbook of anatomy. And believe me, when you see your surgeon come in with a textbook of neck anatomy and neck surgery, that's scary. "I have to tell you, of the 63 cases in the literature, 2/3 of them were on the nerves of speech. There's a 66% chance you won't be able to talk after the operation." So I went to sleep not knowing if I'd ever talk again. I woke up again, blurry, slurry, and foggy, not sure what to say or if I could say anything at all. And then the chief of surgery came into the room with my friend, the surgery resident, and he was really excited. Wow, that was a huge tumor. It just kept bleeding and bleeding, and we had to keep burning it and burning it to make it stop bleeding. Didn't I tell you you'd spoken to me for the last time? Get out of here! And then it hit me. I could talk. I believed my voice had been spared for a reason. In retrospect, this whole experience, as stressful as it was, did have a positive impact. I was becoming a gynecologist, and at that moment, I shifted my focus to patient education and patient advocate. Believe me, I know how important it is that people are empowered with the right information, told the right way. That has been the focus of my life's work. I really want to help my patients and women in general get the information they need in ways they can understand. I started giving lectures and writing health songs. Subsequently, I spent 19 years on the Harvard Medical Faculty and running the Division of Reproductive Medicine and the Fellowship Training Program at Beth Israel Hospital and Harvard Medical School, founding My Menopause magazine and winning the Media Award from the North American Menopause Society for my body of work advancing the understanding of menopause. You're in the right place today if you're a person who gets brain fog and you can't make sense of what's happening to your brain. You say you're on fire and your husband says it's freezing in here. You have no energy or you can't focus. You're less interested in sex than you used to be. You feel you've been through a lot. You feel out of control. Your clothes are a size too small. Nothing is working, and it makes you feel like a failure. Or you're just flat out confused by everything having to do with menopause. I've treated thousands of women, and I'm going to talk with you today about the very things they talk about with me. I want to fortify you and give you a shield, so when things come up for you, you know how to deal with it. Now, what I've come to realize is that women who are in perimenopause, that 10-year window that leads up to menopause, they often don't realize there are things they could and should be doing to feel better and remain healthier as they travel into, through, and beyond menopause. Women in menopause are often uncertain of what to do or what their options are. I'm going to clarify some of the most unclear information you need to know to make good choices going forward. And women in postmenopause often think it's too late to do anything. But that's not true. If you get the right information given to you in a simple and clear way, then what to do or not do will become clear to you. Knowledge is key. You're going to discover a unique medical breakthrough in menopause management and begin to create your personal menopause breakthrough action plan so that you can enjoy a healthier, more vibrant life and feel more in control of your symptoms. That's what we're going to discuss today. And I remember when I had my neck surgery and everybody was telling me I had cancer and there was a good chance I'd never talk again. It was all very scary, and it really sunk into my brain that until you know what you're up against, until you know the facts, you couldn't possibly know what your choices are or what might be the best choice for you. I know that if you're feeling out of balance, it's impossible to make the best decisions for your work, for your family, or for yourself. And you need all the information to make the best choices. I can tell you that recently I've been asked to join a national think tank called AHA, or Advancing Health After Hysterectomy, founded by Dr. Phil Sorrell of Yale, to help explain to both patients and doctors some of the information I'm going to share with you today. Because when we get to the overlooked facts that radically impact your treatment choices, most doctors still don't know about it. And even if they do, in the 8 minutes you get in a typical office visit, it is very difficult to get all the information you need, and you know what that's like. Today, we're going to discuss 4 topics. What is menopause, including menopause phases and timeline? What's happening with hormone production and the impact on you, your symptoms, and your long-term health and well-being? 3 common myths and overlooked facts that radically impact your treatment choices. And the 4th thing we're going to cover for you at the end of this discussion is how you can create your own personal menopause breakthrough action plan. I'm going to teach you as much as I can in the limited time we have together, but don't worry, if you want to take it further, I promise, before I finish, I'll show you how to get more. Now first, what is menopause? Menopause is defined as 1 year after a woman's last menstrual period. What is perimenopause? Perimenopause is the 10-year window leading up to menopause. And the age range for menopause is between 40 and 55. Now, menopause gets called a lot of funny names. The change, that time of life, the M word, the pause. One woman calls it dreadopause. But I love the way Suzanne Summers says it best. As she was going through these changes, she came up with the 7 dwarfs of menopause: itchy, bitchy, sweaty, sleepy, bloated, forgetful, and psycho. Now, there are 3 main types of menopause. Natural, when it occurs on its own between ages 40 and 55. Premature, when it occurs before age 40. And surgical, when the ovaries are removed by surgery. Now, if that happens, you're in menopause no matter what your age is. And these are the stages of reproductive aging. After your first period, you go into the reproductive years, which last roughly around 35 years. And then you hit a 10-year transition that we call perimenopause. Then you have your last period, and then for the rest of your life, you are in postmenopause. And it's during that menopause transition that many of the symptoms happen that we have been talking about and will talk about further. Now, the next topic I want to address is what's happening with hormone production and the impact on you, your symptoms, and your long-term health and well-being. Now, there are 3 main hormones: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And during the reproductive years, estrogen and progesterone are highly balanced and synchronized and work together like 2 paired figure skaters. But as the time of perimenopause and that transition happen, these hormones no longer stay synchronized and they begin to act independently, going up and down, and that causes so many of the symptoms that you might experience, whether it's on your mood or your skin or your bladder or vaginal area or heart or breast. All of these things are often due to the imbalance of hormones. Now, there are also long-term impacts that can be more significant, with potentially increases of a risk for osteoporosis, heart disease, dementia, and breast cancer. Now, what I want to do now is really talk about 5 of the most common symptoms and go over those with you. Number 1 is who turned up the heat, because hot flashes, sometimes called hot flushes, are a really common complaint. Up to 85% of women experience some feelings of warmth, and for some women, it's pretty mild, just menopause saying hello to you, not very bothersome. But other women have this really very intense feeling of flushing and sweating and heat that can interfere with everything. One of the challenges is they're very hard to predict. And although some women recognize personal triggers that may include something like spicy foods, alcohol, caffeine, or chocolate, no one knows exactly what causes hot flashes. But we do know that the thermostat that regulates blood temperature is not working perfectly. The blood vessels suddenly dilate and give off heat. The body senses the heat and quickly cools down, and that leads to chills. And so many women have told me they were at a meeting in front of the Parents Teachers Association, or they're at their businesses or giving a presentation, and they get these hot flashes, and they are so embarrassed. Now, hot flashes tend to be the most intense during the 1 to 3 years leading up to menopause and in women who have had a surgical menopause. Now, there are many treatments available. Those include hormones and prescription non-hormones and alternative treatments and lifestyle changes that I won't have room to discuss now. But I want you to talk with your doctor about which one will work best for you. Now, number 2 is riding the mood roller coaster. Emotional changes are also very common. In the past, you might have felt anxious or a bit sad from time to time, but now your emotions are more intense and unpredictable, and sometimes you feel like that you don't even know who you are. That's caused by those unbalanced hormones I talked about that fluctuate wildly up and down, causing feelings to go up and down with them and feel stronger or last longer. Now, women who have a known psychological condition may find that their fluctuating hormones and lower estrogen levels in and around menopause may affect their symptoms, and treatment that's worked well for a while might be less effective. Treating the symptoms of menopause is very helpful in controlling your mood, so coordinate working with both your menopause expert and mental health expert to get the best results. Wacky periods. Menstrual cycle changes are extremely common in perimenopause and beyond. More than 70% of women are going to have irregular menstrual cycles in their 40s, and you may have longer or shorter cycles, heavier or lighter cycles, increased bleeding, or skipped bleeding. And within 1 to 3 years of menopause, cycles often become more than 60 days apart. The 4th symptom is my heart is racing. Palpitations are rapid heartbeats, usually about 12 to 18 more beats per minute than you're used to. Now, they're common just before a hot flash, but they can happen by themselves. Now, palpitations may be a sign of a heart problem, and one in particular is a condition called atrial fibrillation, which seems to be associated with hot flashes. But usually, they're just one of the many changes that occur naturally as a result of shifting hormone levels. Lower estrogen levels can increase your risk for cardiovascular disease, and this is a larger discussion that I address in my upcoming book called The Estrogen Window, but I wanted to at least mention it here. I am so tired. Menopause can wreak havoc on your sleep. According to the National Sleep Foundation, approximately 61% of menopausal women have sleep problems. And sleeping difficulties can lead to other problems such as daytime drowsiness, your blood pressure, your blood sugar can be affected, and many other things. And there's a lot of reasons why that could happen. You may be getting up to go to the bathroom at night, or the lower estrogen levels affect your REM or rapid eye motion sleep, which lowers the sleep quality. Or hot flashes, having that intense heat at night can disturb your sleep, wake you up. Or a condition called restless leg, where there's like an intense pain that feels like you need to jerk the leg. And that happens in about 15% of women. So if you're having a sleep problem, either falling asleep or waking up early, talk with your doctor to see what can be done. There's lots of treatment options. And remember, it may be part of menopause. Other changes during the change. Now, in addition to the 5 changes that I mentioned, some women experience vaginal dryness, dry eyes, thinning of their hair, skin changes, weight gain, belly fat, bladder issues, bone loss, and lower libido. And thinking about all this can be really scary and leave you wondering, what can you do to take care of yourself? Don't worry about all this. I'll be discussing my comprehensive holistic approach with you towards the end of this training and show you the tools to create your own menopause breakthrough action plan. And by attending this webinar, you're already taking the first step to better health during menopause. Since the 2002 Women's Health Initiative study was reported, several common myths and overlooked facts that radically impact your treatment choices have become the new folklore for women and many of their doctors. Three of the most important ones that are: 1. You have to grin and bear menopause symptoms. I hear this over and over and over. I'm just going to tough it out. I can do it. I'm just going to tough it out. I just got to do that. Or 2. Estrogen therapy is too difficult to understand. Or 3. Taking estrogen is unsafe. We'll discuss these common myths and where they come from a little bit later. We'll also discuss 3 overlooked facts that make a huge difference in deciding if estrogen is right for you: which hormones you take, how old you are when you take them, and how long it's been since you went through menopause. You're also about to discover an amazing new concept that I call the estrogen window that will revolutionize how you think about hormones. Are you wondering whether or not hormones, and estrogen in particular, are a good idea for you? Are they safe? Are they harmful? Are they effective? Which one? How long? How much? When do I start it? When do I stop it? These are the questions I'm asked all the time. Does any of that sound familiar to you? It makes sense I'm asked these questions all the time. My patients are struggling to understand things, but the information has been conflicting or inaccurate. The landmark Women's Health Initiative, or WHI study that came out in 2002 clearly stated what we now know are inaccurate myths, what I call estrogen myth conceptions. That estrogen causes some very major health problems, including heart attack, dementia, and breast cancer. It turns out that isn't necessarily accurate. To understand what I mean by this, let's first take a look at why the 2002 WHI study was done and what it showed. To put it in context, I'm going to give you a brief historical perspective so you can understand where we are now. Now, the FDA approved the estrogen Premarin in 1942, and instantly, there was an effective treatment for hot flashes and other symptoms of menopause. Estrogen was so effective that in 1966, Robert Wilson wrote a book called Feminine Forever, in which estrogen was considered a fountain of youth. Everyone wanted estrogen. In fact, for a while, it was given to men. It was everywhere until it was nowhere. In 1977, estrogen given alone to women with a uterus was found to cause uterine cancer, and the tide turned against estrogen. But then the estrogen tide rose again. In the 1980s, it was discovered that if the hormone progesterone was added to estrogen, uterine cancer was almost totally prevented. Estrogen was back in favor, and in 1986, the FDA approved estrogen to prevent osteoporosis, or thinning of the bones. There was also some evidence that estrogen was helpful in preventing heart attacks in women. Now, preventing heart attacks in women would be huge because it's a fact that after the age of 50, heart attacks claim 33% of women's lives compared to 3% from breast cancer. Now, you may fear breast cancer more, but there's no real comparison as to which is a greater health risk for you. The belief that estrogen was helpful was so strong by both gynecologists and primary care physicians that they prescribed it not only to treat the symptoms of menopause, but also to prevent heart disease. Unfortunately, this was based on observational studies, meaning they weren't randomized studies that were half the women who took estrogen and half did not. So in the 1990s, the Women's Health Initiative, or the WHI, was requested. And it was divided into two initial studies. The first study included 16,608 women who had a uterus, in other words, no hysterectomy, and who were given estrogen and progestin, a synthetic medicine similar to progesterone, to prevent uterine cancer. The second study included 10,739 women who had a hysterectomy, in other words, their uterus was removed, and they received estrogen only because they didn't need the progestin. Now let's look at the actual numbers from the study, the 2002 estrogen plus progestin WHI study. And at that time, over 40% of U.S. women were using hormones to either treat menopause or symptoms to prevent disease. The WHI results shocked Planet Menopause because it showed an increased risk of breast cancer and coronary heart disease. In all, about 8 cases more of breast cancer, 7 more cases of stroke, and 8 cases of pulmonary embolism. But nobody read the fine print. First, let's just take a look at the absolute data. Because here's how to interpret the numbers. 8 more women per 10,000 with breast cancer. Now, some of the women who didn't take it got breast cancer, and some who took the medicine got breast cancer, but 8 more per 10,000 got breast cancer. That's 0.8 more per 1,000, or 0.08 more women per 100, and that's less than 1/10 of 1%. But it was a prevention study, and even a tiny increase required the study to stop because just those are the rules. But the study's impact was immediate and dramatic. Millions of women threw away their estrogen and went cold turkey. They were afraid, they were angry, and without estrogen, they were miserable. I was having women call the office. I can't even tell you how many phone calls we got. First wanting off and then trying to figure what can they do. And as a result, for more than 10 years, millions of women who might have benefited from estrogen avoided it, and thousands of doctors have not really wanted to prescribe it. And in Boston, after the 2002 WHI study came out, some of the same doctors who were routinely giving all their patients hormones to lower their risk of heart disease not only didn't want to give it, many would not give it. And here's what's shocking. It was initially not clarified by the news, and even many doctors didn't realize that most of the women who received estrogen plus progestin were between 60 to 79 years old, and that is much older than most of the women who did not receive the hormone, who were mostly 50 to 59 years old. Now, which group do you think is going to be more likely to have a medical problem? The older group, of course. This was a major flaw in the study, comparing older women taking hormones with younger women not taking hormones. Older women have more health problems than younger women, whether or not they take hormones, right? And this negative change in attitude towards estrogen resulting from the first WHI study had an enormous impact on women and women's health. How big of an impact? An article written by Dr. Phil Sorrell in March of 2015 looked at 500,000 menopausal women with hot flashes, half treated and half not treated. The not treated group had over 1.5 million more doctor's visits over the course of a year, costing hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's just the consequences of not treating hot flashes in 250,000 women. Now, there are 9 million women in the United States currently who have symptoms of moderate to severe hot flashes, and if you multiply the findings of that study and adjust for the 9 million women who aren't treating their hot flashes, We are talking about $14 billion in cost, not to mention all those missed days at work, less focus, less attention, and all the other things that come with it, which is really unfortunate. Now, almost 600,000 women each year have a hysterectomy, and their average age for having it is 46.1 years. Before the first WHI study was reported, more than 90% of hysterectomized women in their 50s used estrogen therapy and continued using it for an average of 4 to 5 years. But within 18 months of the first WHI report, half the women in the United States taking estrogen stopped using it. And of those, nearly 2 million were women who had no uterus, and therefore they were not taking the estrogen progestin medicine reported in the first WHI study. The problem is women thought that all estrogen containing medicines were the same and all forms, dosage, and routes were equally dangerous, which is understandable how they would think that. Now I want to talk to you about estrogen only and heart attack, because 2 more WHI studies came out in 2004 and 2011 with much less fanfare. They reported that women with a hysterectomy who took estrogen only were at less risk than women who took a placebo. 13 less women per 10,000 died, mostly due to less heart disease. And in another report of 71,237 postmenopausal women aged 36 to 59, and I want to be clear, they were 36 to 59 years old, but they were in menopause. Those who only took estrogen had a 46% lower risk of dying. Now, these studies clearly show that if you're a woman younger than 59 and you take only estrogen, you will greatly lower your risk of the number 1 killer of women in the United States, heart disease. And this is particularly important if you go through early menopause, which puts women at an even greater risk of heart attack. And here's what's essential for you to know. It's not age, but rather how many years since you went through menopause that matters most. That is what determines if it will be protective or harmful. The longer you've been without estrogen, the more plaque there is in your arteries and the greater the risk of heart attack and blood clots. Starting estrogen close to the time of menopause results in fewer deaths. How many fewer? A 2013 article in the American Journal of Public Health estimates that between 2002 and 2011, a minimum of 18,601 women and as many as 91,610 postmenopausal women died prematurely because of the avoidance of estrogen therapy. Now I want to talk about estrogen and progestin and heart attack. Now, the story for women who have a uterus and want to take hormone replacement is not as clear-cut as it is for their sisters who have had a hysterectomy. And the part that makes it complicated is the fact that women who have a uterus and take estrogen also have to take some type of progestin to protect their uterine lining from developing uterine cancer. Now, the first WHI study in 2002 used an oral estrogen, Premarin, plus a progestin called medroxyprogesterone acetate, or MPA, not a bioidentical progesterone, but a chemical similar in structure to progesterone that the uterine lining perceives as progesterone. And it was the most common medicine used together with estrogen at the time that the study was done. The first study showed estrogen plus progestin increased the risk of heart attack. But the risk was inflated because, as I mentioned before, they did not take into account the age of the women receiving the medicine or the age when the women went through menopause. This initial study understandably caused women to fear they were at greatly increased risk of a heart attack and coronary artery disease if they took hormone therapy. But a more recent WHI analysis done in 2013 had some data that was really quite different. They analyzed the risk of heart attack based on both age of the woman when she started the medicine and the number of years since going through menopause. And if you look only at age, there was some overall increased risk of heart attack by taking estrogen plus progestin. However, when you look at the risk based on the number of years since menopause, women who started taking estrogen plus progestin in the first decade after menopause actually slightly reduced their risk of heart attack. So even if you still have your uterus, you can still talk with your doctor about taking estrogen plus progestin at the time of menopause, and that is really good news. Now I want to talk now about estrogen only or estrogen plus progestin and dementia. So many women joke about losing their mind, not being able to find the car, brain fog, and all that kind of thing. They're joking about something they are really worried about, and that's Alzheimer's disease. I will often hear someone say, "My mom had Alzheimer's disease, what about me?" Well, here's why. 14.7% of Americans over 70 have some kind of dementia, and Alzheimer's is now the sixth leading cause of death in the United States, and it affects 20% more women than men. So the prevalence is expected to triple by 2050. Triple by 2050, with an estimated cost of $20 trillion. Now, hot flashes is the reason, or number one reason, that women come in for treatment, but many of my patients are really worried about dementia. So what do we know about taking estrogen plus progestin and dementia from the WHI memory study? It's called the WHIMS study, WHIMS study. Once again, there is an age window and estrogen window. Women who were started on estrogen plus progestin after age 65, so these are started after age 65, were at increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. In fact, they nearly doubled their risk of Alzheimer's disease. Well, what if estrogen and progestin, or estrogen only, are given earlier? There's some evidence that it might lower the risk of Alzheimer's disease if it's begun within 5 years of menopause, or the beginning of menopause. In one study, those who began hormones within 5 years of menopause had a 26% reduction in Alzheimer's. Those who used it only in late life had a 46% increased risk, and those who used it throughout had a neutral impact. Well, what about women with early menopause? Now here is where the data makes a huge difference. Women who go through surgical menopause due to removal of their ovaries, either one or both, that results in menopause at an early age, before age 46, are at a 70% increased risk of Alzheimer's disease, 70% increased risk of Alzheimer's disease, unless they receive estrogen treatment from the time of the surgery until the age of menopause occurring naturally. So if those women take estrogen until the time of natural menopause, age 51, their risk disappears like magic. Now, we have a lot of women that are having their ovaries removed before menopause for a variety of reasons, and this is really important information. The next topic I want to talk about with you is breast cancer. It's one of the biggest fears of the first WHI study, that it increased the risk of breast cancer, and women and their doctors just panicked. The study reported an increased risk of breast cancer with the use of estrogen plus progestin if they use it for more than 3 to 5 years. Overall, the increase was 8 additional breast cancers per 10,000 women among women who used it for 5 years or more. Now, the good news is is that within 3 years of stopping the estrogen plus progestin, that increased risk disappears. What I can now share with you is that it appears it was the progestin and not the estrogen that caused the breast cancer. And here's why. For women who began estrogen alone shortly after the beginning of menopause, there was a 23% decreased risk of breast cancer. I want to repeat this. For women who began estrogen alone shortly after the beginning of menopause, there was a 23% decreased risk of breast cancer. This supports the notion that it's the progestin that's the problem, and there are ways to work around this to keep breast cancer at a minimum. These are some of the ways I have devised. Not everyone uses them, but these are my approaches to this. One is to use bioidentical progesterone, which appears safer. 2 is to give the progesterone less often, in other words, every 3 to 6 months instead of every month. 3, use a progesterone secreting IUD plus estrogen. Or 4, use a new medication that combines estrogen with a SERM, a selective estrogen receptor modulator, that protects the breast. Now clearly, there is a lot to talk about, and I've tried to cover the highlights for some of the most recent information on estrogen or estrogen plus progestin to try and clear up some of the common misconceptions. I recently interviewed Dr. Joanne Manson, who's been one of the leading investigators on the WHI studies for nearly 20 years, and it was her belief that if estrogen plus progestin is begun near the time of menopause for women who had moderate to severe symptoms and who didn't have any undue risks, the benefits outweighed the risks. This basic understanding will be of great help when you talk with your doctor about what makes sense for your individual situation. Now, educating yourself and taking charge of your menopause experience is really important for 3 reasons. One is that doctors are doing the best that they can, but many don't have time to be up to date and current on the research, and some have not taken the time to dig deep into research studies. I've spent more than 30 years immersed in women's health and menopause. The second is that doctor's visits are ridiculously short. They're about 8 minutes, as we've mentioned, and that's not enough time for your doctor to educate you fully about your choices. You need to do this on your own if you want the info. And third, menopause does not have to be a time of holding you back and jeopardizing the next phase of your life. I know you're scared that you're going to lose things you've worked hard for, and you can stop that from happening. With what we know about menopause, not only can you eliminate many of the uncomfortable symptoms, but you can actually design your own menopause breakthrough so that this becomes the most exciting, enriching time of your life. Make sure you stay to the end because I'm going to show you how you can turn today's immediately useful information into lasting transformation. And for those who want to take it further, before I finish up, I'll be showing you how to do that with training, tools, and support. And I'm going to warn you that your doctor may or may not be familiar with some of these things because I'm going to be talking about really cutting-edge thinking. Now, the information I'm going to share with you now is taken from a training we do exclusively for women who are in perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause, and it's called Menopause Breakthrough. The breakthrough information on hormone treatment that you can immediately put to use that we've been talking about in this webinar comes directly out of Module 4 of the 5 training modules in Menopause Breakthrough training that we offer. But to create your own personal Menopause Breakthrough Action Plan, you also need the other 4 training modules so that you can have the full picture and can really make this happen. It's like a puzzle. You need all the pieces to achieve the breakthrough that you're creating. I'm going to walk you through all 5 steps that you need to create your own menopause breakthrough now. These are the 5 steps that you must address in order to take control of your life and cause a menopause breakthrough. I'm going to show you the steps you'll need to take to get the results that are possible, whether you attempt to navigate your way through the oodles of data out there all alone, facing down your symptoms as you go, or you do it with my assistance at a faster pace as you walk through the 5 modules that hold your hand and walk you step by step through this in our Menopause Breakthrough program. I'll show you how that works shortly. Now, we've already covered much of Step 4, which comes from Module 4 of our training. But please keep listening so I can show you the other steps that you're going to need if you really want to have a long and lasting transformation and create your own menopause breakthrough action plan. Step 1 is meet your new body and welcome your new mind. How do you make time for yourself at this time of life when A, you're not feeling 100%, and B, you have so many responsibilities pulling at you? That's why I created a concept called U-Zone, to underscore how important it is to make time to nurture yourself so you have the energy to nurture those you love. And at the same time, many of my patients sometimes feel that they're in a rut or in a place or situation they'd like to change, but they aren't sure how. For that, I've created the Vision Pyramid, a 5-step process that is easy to understand and put into use to help you create a new reality for yourself. Let me tell you a story about Sarah. She was 46 years old and having a hard time. She could not make sense out of what was happening to her. She wasn't sleeping well and she was tired all the time. She said her brain felt like it wasn't wired right, and somehow her head had gotten screwed up. Sarah told me that she had an important report at work she was supposed to have completed by a certain date, and she forgot to turn it in. Sarah also found her temper getting shorter. She felt like she wasn't herself. This was causing difficulty at work, both with feeling out of control and not performing at her usual level. And Sarah was really worried about her job performance. And that was causing her even more stress and making her symptoms worse. Before she talked with me, she did not connect how she was feeling with being in perimenopause. I used the Vision Pyramid and some of the tools from Modules 2 and 3 in the Menopause Breakthrough program to help Sarah sleep better, lower her stress, and get back in control. All of these things helped her balance her hormones naturally. And we also discussed non-prescription treatments from Module 4 that could help her. And an action plan was created to help move her forward. Within a few months, Sarah was feeling a lot better, and she had an understanding of what her other options and possibilities could be in the future. And during this time, so many of my patients tell me that there just isn't enough of them to go around. In addition to dealing with hot flashes and vaginal dryness and lower sex drive, they're exhausted and flat out. It's very important to find ways to nurture your body, mind, and spirit so that you can feel better both physically and emotionally. Now for that, I've created an elegant concept called the self-care prescription so that you can incorporate simple, doable actions on a weekly basis. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to go over it here, but it's something that we'll dive in together deeply if you choose to join me for a Menopause Breakthrough program. And all that is in Module 1. Step 2 is preparing for the emotional journey. It's incredibly important to establish 3 emotional anchors during this window of life: self-esteem, sense of purpose, and relationships. The symptoms of menopause can definitely lower self-esteem, especially if the symptoms are not treated or dealt with well. And so many things can rob you of your sense of purpose, the thing that makes you wake up in the morning and stay excited about the new day. Fortunately, there are ways to frame menopause so that there is an ongoing sense of purpose that adds so much to both how you feel and how you feel about yourself. It's also very important to make relationships and maintain relationships to make sure you're supported. And there are many ways to make sure that those stay intact or to find ways and time to create new ones. And all of that is connected to gathering your circle of support to nurture your soul and support your spirit. That's why I developed an approach on how to build your emotional anchors. There is a way to prepare for the emotional journey that will help you keep emotionally strong. Now, I've talked with so many women about this time of life who have stopped working or work only part-time to take care of their children. And once their kids go off to school, they still have things that they wanted to do, but they put them off in order to raise their kids. And now, years later, they start to question their sense of purpose. I want to tell you a vignette about Mary, who's 52 years old and a pediatric nurse. She loved working with kids, and after getting married, she had two of her own, a boy and a girl. A few years after her daughter was born, she felt like she was missing her own kids growing up, and so she stopped working as a nurse to raise her family. Mary put a lot of time into her children, and as they went off to college, Mary felt sad and was unclear what to do with herself. She lost her sense of purpose. Mary also shared that she was feeling old and washed up and going downhill. She was losing interest in sex, which had gotten uncomfortable and sometimes even painful. She was scared because she was getting really depressed and afraid she would lose her marriage. She didn't know what to do. Mary didn't realize the impact menopause was having on her life, and she was relieved to know that these are common symptoms that many menopausal women struggle with. We talked about how to regain her sense of purpose and use some of the tools from Module 5 to get her sex drive back. We also discussed hormone therapy, which approach was best for her, and specific ways to deal with painful sex. Happily for Mary, in a very short time her sex life improved, she started feeling back in control, and she was feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Step 3. Discover specific paths to lower your stress, sleep better, improve nutrition, and exercise or maintain your weight. These are all major issues that I've helped improve in thousands of my patients that I've seen over the years. It's really important to understand which of these you're strong in and which areas still need some work. Because once you do that, it's possible to get some direction to begin to transform your unhealthy habits and move towards your menopause breakthrough. Menopause Breakthrough helps you navigate which lifestyle habits and activities work best in the Menopause GPS. It is a powerful skill. Step 4. Today I've covered some of the core elements of Step 4 around navigating the myths and knowing the facts about hormones. And in the Menopause Breakthrough, I'll be taking that deeper so you can include what you've learned today into your personal action plan. Again, the training is about taking this important information and turning it into a personal action plan, a GPS, to guide you to your menopause breakthrough. Step 5 is thriving beyond menopause. This is the final piece in the creation of your menopause breakthrough action plan. It involves proven ways that create a deeper, more meaningful life and help transform each day into an experience. You'll discover how to have better sex, control a sensitive bladder, cool hot flashes, create a positive mindset, and the importance of spirituality. The menopause years can be some of the most rewarding if you build upon the first 4 modules and become proactive about your health and wellness. Thriving beyond menopause is more than just balancing hormones, which is very important. But it's controlling all the areas of your life so you can flourish in your relationship, your work, and your life in general. To make this easy for you, I've created a way to help you so you can know what things you should be addressing and when. Many of my sessions with patients focus on how to take back control of their lives, what to expect, and what to do about it. Now, while your genes control about 25% of happiness and longevity, 75% of it's influenced by habits and behaviors that you can really take control of because they're under your control. I'll reveal ways to improve happiness and longevity that you can begin to implement immediately. The 5 steps I just covered are also my heartfelt invitation for you to work with me further in my Menopause Breakthrough program. I'm going to take a moment to show you exactly how this works and how it will apply to you. Step 1, meet your new body and welcome your new mind. My patients are telling me that they feel out of balance and it's impossible for them to make the best decisions for their work, their families, or themselves. One woman told me she felt old, washed up, going downhill. It's my wiring, she said. It's just got all screwed up. The things you're trying to control are feeling out of control, and you're worried about losing control. Also, when you feel there just isn't enough of you to go around and you feel exhausted and flat out, there are easy ways to nurture your body, mind, and spirit so that you can feel reinvigorated, both physically and emotionally. All of this is easy to accomplish with self-care prescriptions so that you can incorporate simple, doable actions on a weekly basis. Step 2 is preparing for the emotional journey. Do you feel like something is holding you back? Jeopardizing the next phase of your life because you got a lot of stuff to get done and this is just not supposed to be happening to you? You're going to discover how to improve your self-esteem, sense of purpose, and relationships, and get some powerful guidance on how to maintain relationships to make sure you are supported. Remember my story about Sarah. Step 3, navigating menopause with your Menopause GPS. You've got a closet full of clothes that are getting too small. You're feeling more anxious and stressed, not sleeping and not exercising, and you're not sure what food you should or shouldn't be eating. We're going to cover tools and help you move forward in all these areas so you can start moving towards your menopause breakthrough. Step 4, hormones and hormone alternatives for the hot years. You'll finally understand if hormones are right for you. When is the safest time to take them and what alternatives you can take if hormones aren't a fit for you. You'll be ready to have a real discussion with your doctor about treatment for the hot years. Step 5, thriving beyond menopause. This is the final piece in the creation of your Menopause Breakthrough Action Plan. We're going to discuss how to get your mojo back, how to control a sensitive bladder, and dive deep into options for treating hot flashes. We'll discuss mindset, mindfulness and dementia, spirituality, and how it affects your health, your happiness, and your resilience. I'll also give you an immunization schedule to follow, questions to ask your doctor at annual exams, and the top 10 lab results and tests you should know the results for yourself. Menopause Breakthrough is a 5-module course all delivered by computer, so you can access it at any time, from anywhere, and it's super simple. You just log in and click through the course. You don't have to be a tech whiz at all. I know people learn in different ways, so you can learn from videos, audios, and written material, and even some original music that I have created for this course. Now, when you order Menopause Breakthrough right away, you will save $300 off the $597 tuition. In fact, you invest just $97 to get started immediately, plus 2 more easy installments of $97, or if you want to save even more money, you can make one quick payment of just $247. I want to help you get started. Look at the cost of not creating your Menopause Breakthrough Action Plan. What's one night of lost sleep worth? A ruined vacation? A fight with your husband that lasts a week? Not understanding what's going on with your body and mind? Trying to navigate all of this on your own with multiple specialists over large periods of time? That all can add up to thousands of dollars wasted, amazing amounts of time lost, and it just leads to getting more confused and more frustrated. Let me answer the top 3 questions we get right before people decide to invest in themselves. Can this help me when nothing's helped me so far? Well, things can't help you if you haven't tried them. In Menopause Breakthrough, you'll get simple actions each week. How can I do this if I just don't have time? It can be done from anywhere, anytime, 6 a.m. or midnight, before you go to sleep, educated on your own time. We built this with that in mind. Also, some of this information is time sensitive for you, and you want to be sure to take advantage of it before you move outside of your estrogen window. Don't shoot the messenger, but if you don't make time now, studies show that you may not be able to act later because you will have missed your opportunity. Scared it's too complicated? That's the beauty of the program. It's been designed with you in mind. Everything is broken down into small steps that are easy to understand and take only a short time to complete. If you know how to send an email, you can do this. I want to invite you to step up to this opportunity. I know how much it will help you both in your health and in the quality of your life. Click on the link below to enroll today. And if you do sign up, you're going to get 3 very special bonuses. One is Secrets of Achieving Better Sex, Better Intimacy with my 6-CD expert interview audio program. It's 6 super revealing interviews with some of America's top sex experts teaching you their top secrets on how to have better sexual relationship, improve vaginal dryness and painful sex, maintain intimacy when you're coping with cancer, discover if you need a sex therapist, and a whole lot more. It's a $197 value. Plus, my award-winning Sleep and Relax audio set, a $30 value. I've used scientific theory to create this music's tempo and key sequences, and these musical compositions are being used in doctors' waiting rooms and mammography and radiation centers to relax patients and by hundreds of women who use it as a non-pharmacologic sleep aid. And third, live calls with me. You'll receive 90 days of free access to the Menopause Breakthrough live group calls with me, and I will answer questions, anything you want to talk about related to the program. Women going through this program have told me that the calls alone were worth more than the cost of the program. Enroll now in the Menopause Breakthrough program and start creating your own personal menopause breakthrough. I look forward to working with you. Click on the link below and order now.